anyway, just by way of introduction, was Relle's a very experienced tour leader. She's worked with the Royal Botanic Gardens Society for many years and led tours for them not only to Japan but into China and Central Asia. She has a passion for gardening, and of course Japan as well. She has a great backstory in Japan that has studied and worked over time, and we're thrilled to have her on board leading tours for us. And with her first tour coming up in July to Hokkaido and the Tohoku region of Northern Honshu, where, as I mentioned before, we get to participate in the annual celebration that is called the Nebuta Festival. Okay, so we've got Relle back there.
Look, I can't see anything on my screen. I'm just trying to get my phone to get the app onto the phone, and then we might have more success with the phone. The internet connection in Berry is particularly shaky. We'll see. Anyway, Mark,
Anyway, I can see you. I could go
hello,
back.
and hello, everybody. I can't see who's there. Um, my name's Relle Mott, and I'm forward to our tour in Japan summer, July this year, to Aomori and Hokkaido.
Is that better?
Yes, I can see you, Mark, but you are a bit
Yep.
frozen.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just have to bear with it. As I mentioned in the introduction, you've got a great history with Japan, and in particular, gardening and a love of gardens, etc. Can you tell us a bit about your background for the participants at home?
Right. Well, I've been living up in Berry, down in Berry, for nearly 4 years, after having spent most of my working life in Sydney, 20 years of which have been at the Royal Botanic Gardens in Sydney, in the education section, and public programs. I'm a teacher originally. Prior to that, I dabbled in architecture, didn't finish that degree. I was a teacher of Japanese and art at high school level, and then I changed to horticulture, which had the happy ending of getting me a job at the Botanic Gardens. So yes, I've had a long association with the gardens. I am a very keen plants person, and I'm reveling in being able to plant very big trees down here on my berry property, which is truly a luxury.
Sounds great. A little bit different to Japan. We'll talk a bit about the differences in the gardens in a minute, I think, between what people find in Australia and what to expect in Japan. Um, but you do have a deep interest in the country. What sort of led you to that? Tell us a bit about how that came about.
Well, my first experience with Japan was as a hapless and exchange student for Rotary on the Rotary scheme in 1978, which shows my age. I
Wow.
had finished school, and in those days, one way to get a gap year was to do an exchange program. And I did not choose Japan. Japan chose me. And serendipitously, I have had a happy and long association with that country ever since 1978.
Great. Yeah. Sounds amazing. The Rotary program is great. I've had friends who have gone through it, and you're right. Some people ended up in Scandinavia, and a lot of people ended up in Japan, which often changed the course of their lives as well. So sounds like it did some wonderful things for you too. And then your association with the Royal Botanic
Yes,
Gardens,
yes,
Sydney,
absolutely.
you're still involved with that, aren't you?
I am. I'm a volunteer guide, which is a large group of about 150 people who are a slightly different sector to the Friends of the Gardens, but closely associated. I'm also a friend of gardens, but the volunteer guides are a wonderful bunch of people from different backgrounds who um, support the gardens by using their plant knowledge to guide members of the public and tourists on tours of our wonderful garden in Sydney. So it's a way to contribute to the knowledge of plants and the appreciation of the environment and conservation.
Wonderful. And so you enjoy this role and your public engagement. Is that why you enjoy leading tours as well?
Yes, I do enjoy people. I very much enjoy sharing my passion,
Mm.
which, as I've said, is I've got varied passions. Japan,
Mhm.
plants, and my more recent return to ceramics, which is something I did years ago, and then there was a long gap. But I have a studio down here in Berry, at my house, and when I'm not in the garden, I'm in my ceramics studio.
It's something that goes, the arts and crafts world goes hand in hand with Japan itself. It's a lovely synergy that you have there with that as well. Um,
Yes, absolutely. And I particularly admire and enjoy when I visit Japan, immersing in the beautiful crafts and that very refined aesthetic, which we all appreciate about Japanese traditional and contemporary art and craft.
yeah, it's the culture is so ingrained there, isn't it, in Japan? Um, and you're going to lead this tour for us in July. What are you looking forward to on the tour?
Oh, Mark. Well, I in fact did a very, very similar tour for the Friends of the Gardens 2 years ago in 2024. And our focus in that tour was gardens in Hokkaido and the beautiful and exciting Nebuta Festival in Aomori and Hirosaki. So, I'm uh, very much looking forward to seeing summer in Hokkaido. It's a very beautiful country. It's a region of Japan which is not really like the rest of Japan. It's more like New Zealand.
Mm.
I would describe it as it's very green, very rushing rivers, sweeping landscapes, lots of volcanoes, which some of which are active, but we haven't had any trouble, much trouble with those. Um, the climate is quite similar to Northern Europe, and the plant species are very similar to that arboreal Arctic Circle conifers and short, um, very green, intense summers. Um, so that's the landscape, but then there's also the other wonderful part of Hokkaido is that it has many hot springs. I love hot springs, onsen, and it also has some fabulous art. So I'm looking forward to taking people to a few of the places that I found in 2024.
Right. Yeah. And we've tried to include as much of what you enjoy in the tour as possible for clients to enjoy together with you. Um, if they come along. And you're right,
Excellent.
it is quite a geographically different part of Japan, perhaps not the type of landscape that people associate with what they think of Japan in terms of, temples and torii gates and that sort of thing. It is more of a green area, a wilder region, so to speak, isn't it?
That's right. Mark, I'm afraid once again,
Yeah.
my computer's telling me I can still hear you, but it's telling me I have signed out.
Oh,
So
you're
I don't know.
still
We're
here.
having a
You've
lot of
frozen
trouble.
a
I'll
little
try
bit.
and switch to my phone.
Okay.
Oh, excellent. I- if you see me darting to the side, I'm trying hard on my phone as a backup. All right. So, Mark, um, now we've talked about the geography. One thing I hadn't mentioned that I'm very much looking forward to, and I'm sure our guests will very much enjoy it, is the Upapoi Ainu Museum.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Yes, good. So, Upapoi Ainu Museum was opened in 2021, just as COVID hit, 2020, I think. And so it was virtually preserved intact with no visitors, except the locals, until 2023 when Japan opened up again. And we went there in 24, and it was really one of the best museums for a traditional culture that I have seen. It was very well curated. It was fascinating. They had a great collection and it was quite broad in its context. So that I think people will really enjoy.
Yeah, the Ainu indigenous culture of Japan isn't widely known, so I think it's something of an eye opener for people to go and see and experience this at the Upapoi Museum, which my understanding is such a fantastic place with a diverse range of
Yes, that's
exhibits.
right. I think the thing with yes, the thing with Upapoi is that I think that's an area in the understanding of Japan that's sadly lacking. The Ainu culture is a little bit like our Indigenous Aboriginal First Nations culture here, in that those people were sadly very persecuted, and they were once existed in the northern part of Honshu, but they were slowly pushed north, and Hokkaido was only colonized by a large number of people in the Meiji Restoration years, so from the 1860s. So it's quite a young region of Japan, and that probably explains the Ainu being confined to Hokkaido, but also the some of the tragic history of those people.
But there is a strong connection coming back
Can
with
you
the
hear me,
people.
Mark?
You're fading a little bit in and out, but we can persevere.
Yes, I know. This is proving to be quite a challenge.
Must be all
Mark,
those trees you've
what I'm
planted.
going to try and do is get onto my, oh, the trees I've planted. Well, what have I planted in the last 2 days? I must have planted 100 trees or more so far. I've just come in from digging up a potato bed, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So I planted a mixture of natives and exotics. Waratahs do very well here. Um, so it's a lovely place to be.
And it's quite different in the style of garden that you would see in Japan traditionally. But having said that, the gardens we are looking at visiting, that some of which you've chosen in Hokkaido are quite different again. Um, Places like the Tokachi Millennium Forest, which was actually designed by a British garden designer, I believe.
Ah, yes. Well, the Tokachi Millennium Forest is quite a special place. It's huge for Japan. It's the work of a collaboration between British landscape designer Dan Pearson, who's a sort of superstar landscaper in Europe, and the head gardener, Shintani Midori-san, whom I met in 2024 when we visited that garden. It's called the Millennium Garden because it's meant to um, look forward towards the next 1,000 years and protect the natural environment. It was created by a newspaper baron as as a carbon offset for his newspaper footprint. So it makes sense when you see it like that. It's quite a large and sweeping garden with wild areas and streams that cut through it. A very beautiful perennial garden that's looking perfect in at the end of July. It'll be looking great for us because it's that period in Hokkaido where everything's absolutely flourishing. The
That's
lilies are really beautiful.
it's the green season they call it, don't they? Um,
That's right. Yes. Yes, the
and
green season is a lovely thing in Hokkaido. And we probably won't be anywhere where we'll see the remains of snow. Snow does remain on the very highest peaks, but that tends to be a little bit further north.
yeah, okay. So yeah, we're predominantly visiting in the southern central regions of the island, aren't we?
Yes, yes, that's right. We are focusing on the southern area, but
Yeah.
Hokkaido is surprisingly big.
Mm,
It's a the distances are much greater than when you're traveling in other areas of Japan, and we have to factor that in
yeah.
to make the logistics of a tour flow well.
Yeah, there's some coaching throughout. We all travel on the tours by coach, so we're not really boarding trains or getting on and off trains with luggage or anything of that nature. But yes, a couple of the days, like traveling out of Sapporo towards
Yes,
Furano, sorry,
yeah, yes,
can be a long day on that one, and the day down to get to where the Upperboy village down in Noboribets is another longish day. Um,
yes, yes,
but
absolutely.
it might come somewhat as a relief for people to be on the coach because although it's green season, it is summer, and it can get quite humid in Hokkaido. So
Yes, and Japan seems to be getting hotter every year. Um, Last, the last time I was there in midsummer was 2024, and Hokkaido, fortunately, is slightly cooler than more southerly locations like Tokyo. However, it can be hot. So you're right, the coach with its air conditioning is going to be wonderful. We might be lucky. We might avoid it. I think my group was in Hokkaido a little bit later than we're going to be there, and I think August does tend to be the baking month.
mm,
So with a bit of luck, we might avoid that.
yeah, and then of course there's measures people could take. The Japanese are well known for having these little cloths called teanagui, which literally means a handheld wipe. It's great for that, and you can buy those personal fans that you can get as well that I'd recommend people take with them. Anyway, we digress.
Yes, yes, people do wander around, and you can now buy these funny little necklaces that you put in the freezer and they have ice in them.
Okay.
So that's another little technique. And also I think a lot of Japanese people, men and women, tend to use sun umbrellas. So
Mm.
silver on the outside and dark on the inside, and it does make a difference. And you can get those from Mont Bell,
Oh, yes, yes.
which is there's a shop in Chatswood.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
So
the
obviously,
outdoor shop.
I
Yeah.
guess the different climate and humidity has an influence on things like the gardens in Japan. So the structured sort of strolling gardens you see around Kyoto and other historic places, as we've said with Tokaichi, it's quite different. Do you have a preference? Like, does it remind you more of the Australian bushland?
No, no. I find Hokkaido surprisingly European. Um, the gardens on the whole there's the odd traditional Japanese style garden with ponds and strolling and rocks, but on the whole, they are European style gardens. the plants they can grow are very
Mm.
Northern Hemisphere. And I think this lends itself to that style of landscape gardening. There are some magnificent gardens just a short walk within the grounds of the Furano Prince Hotel, where we will be staying, and they are really worth seeing. They're like mixed perennial borders that you would see in Sissinghurst in England.
Okay.
They're not at all what you would imagine a Japanese garden to be. So we'll be getting an interesting exposure to a style of gardening that stretches from the Tokachi Millennium Forest with that very contemporary aesthetic, wild gardens, as well as designed gardens, and right over on the other side to a sort of a cottage style, mad mix of perennial colour. So we'll be seeing a great variety out when we're on the bus. In Hokkaido, there's a very beautiful botanic garden attached to Hokkaido University, walking distance from our hotel. And it is an old garden. It's really a collection of beautiful trees. And in the middle of that garden, it has quite a good little museum of the history of Hokkaido, in particular the Ainu culture. So that's worth
Oh,
seeing. Um, the Where we possibly will be able to get to see some traditional Japanese gardens is in Aomori when we move back across to the mainland, or I call it the mainland, it's just the main island of Honshu.
mm.
The Hokkaido, because it was only colonized or really settled by the Japanese from the 1860s, everything about Hokkaido is quite modern, whereas when you move back over to the mainland, Honshu, you get that depth of traditional culture. So there's quite a contrast, and we will experience that contrast when we move back over to Aomori for the Nebuta Festival.
And I think that Meiji restoration style of European architecture is reflected in some of the buildings in Sapporo itself as well.
Yes, yes, Mark, that's absolutely right. It's actually quite a nice uh, original collection of Meiji and Showa, which is the next historic period. They name their periods of time according to whoever the emperor is. So Meiji was the emperor, Showa was the next one. Taisho was in between. Taisho was the next one. So that leads up to about the 1920s. So there's a lot of that style of architecture in the civic buildings. But the other interesting thing about Hokkaido is the Russian influence.
Okay.
Siberia is a
So
stone's throw
close.
across yes, it's so close. And there is a strong Russian influence to the architecture as well.
Okay. I found it interesting putting the tour together that one of the other gardens we visit in Obihiro is the well, it's called the Rokate Art Village, but it's another vast garden, but they've transplanted some old buildings from what would have been Czechoslovakia from Czechia?
Oh, yes, that's very odd. But then that's Japan.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are some very unexpected um, elements. I once came across in the middle of some mountains in Fukushima Prefecture in the sort of middle of the main island, um, to mimic a European castle. So that unfortunately no longer is open, but things like shifting Czech houses into a park in Hokkaido is something that the Japanese do actually do. So we'll come across a few funny things like that. Rokate Garden, um, Art Village, actually has some really lovely buildings, which are galleries, and they're all different. and they are perfectly in tune with their surroundings, which are like um, some are set in the middle of forest and some are in the middle of more traditional gardens. It's very beautiful. It was also, we built Rokkate is a brand of chocolates in Japan and biscuits. And the Rokkate company or family have actually built this garden. So it's a bit like the newspaper baron building Tokachi
Mhm.
Millennium Forest. There's a lot of money in Japan in that very large population.
There's almost throughout Japan a philanthropic sense of people who have done well in business and economics and have opened art galleries like the Mori Museum in Tokyo and places like we're talking about here today in Sapporo. It's quite a factor in Japanese business, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And the Japanese are very lucky to have that um, uh, philanthropic tradition because it has, as you say, brought about some really special private galleries all the way across Japan,
Yeah.
including this beautiful one called Rokkate.
Well, it's great that we can experience it as the public and that it's open for everybody to come and enjoy. You touched on traveling across
Yeah,
by
there's
ferry to
one.
Aomori, and
Yes,
so
that's really special. Yes, going by ferry really gives you a sense of um, Japan as an island country. And Aomori, when we move back over to Aomori, uh, I think everyone's really going to appreciate the contrast. And the culture has great depth. I love Aomori. It's one of my favorite Japanese prefectures. It's beautiful in all seasons, and the people are fantastic in Aomori. It's got a sort of Aomori people has been honed by their harsh climate. They say that the dialect in Aomori is very difficult to understand because the people don't open their mouths. And it's a similar to our not opening their mouths because of the flies. In Aomori, they don't open their mouths because it's so cold.
okay.
So it's an interesting culture. It's famous for apples and beautiful women.
Uh, uh, I knew
So
about
we'll
the
look for
apples.
those.
I knew about the apples everywhere you go. They talk about the Aomori apples, and I'm sure in any of the shops and gift shops and things, there's apple based products around. But I think
Yes, apples everywhere.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
every
But
time I
the
mention
beauty, yes, the
um,
beautiful women.
go on.
Sorry, Mark. Because I can't see you, I'm
Yeah, it's a
just
bit
waiting for
difficult.
the audible cues. Uh, yes. Aomori is another sweeping landscape prefecture. It means that the two words that make up the name Aomori mean blue forest. Blue and green in Japanese have an interesting combined meaning. Blue and green are regarded as very close on the color spectrum as Japanese people see it. So
Right.
it can also mean green forest, but Aomori, as the name suggests, is a very forested place. There are some high mountains and they have a lot of bears. They have some really magnificent old architecture in the form of old thatched roofed farmhouses and some really fantastic stone warehouse structures, which I'm particularly fond of. Um, the warehouses were very important to preserve their food for the winter. So we'll no doubt see those and I will point them out as we're going along.
certainly. But I think every Japanese person I mentioned this tour to, and that we're going to this festival, they all sort of take a breath and say, "Oh, I've always wanted to go to that festival, the Nebuta Festival." Um, what what is it about this festival? What is the festival about? What does it mean?
Well, Japan and festivals.
Mm,
Festivals are very intrinsic to traditional and even contemporary life in regional areas of Japan. They are often tied to Shinto rituals. They're
mhm,
often tied to harvests. They're purification festivals. Um, they can be very raucous affairs or somber affairs. The Nebuta Festival that we're going to be attending is enormous. It's particularly exciting. I have been several times to both the Aomori and the Hirosaki Nebuta festivals. My preference is for the Hirosaki one because it's slightly smaller. It's a more, I couldn't say it's intimate because Hirosaki is still quite a big city, but Aomori, the Aomori festival is really huge, the Nebuta festival there, whereas the Hirosaki festival, you get a better sense of community. These festivals do involve the whole community.
mm.
Um, when I was before COVID, I was over there and I attended both the Hirosaki Festival and another one in a smaller community nearby. And what really impressed me was, apart from the drums and the noise and the color and the excitement, the fact that they had the whole kindergarten were walking along. Kept families with children in prams were in the procession. They had all the old people from the aged care home being pushed along in wheelchairs. Um, One of them was like on a hospital bed, but
Oh,
they're there and they're being included. And
oh,
I
wonderful.
find that a really wonderful facet of Japanese regional life.
So,
So,
and
apart from that, the noise is incredible. The color is incredible. The effort that has gone into making these gigantic floats is,
yes, so they
yes,
start once the festival ends each year, and each year, if I understand correctly, they make new floats, and it's a bit of a
yes,
competition as well, isn't it?
they make new ones all over again. So they, it's like a competition, and it's like different suburbs of community. There'll be little groups of um, people in the same area who will come together and they'll all meet. And there's a couple of really good NHK documentaries
Mm,
on making their floats and some YouTube videos as well, which I will make sure that are on the recommended
reading
reading
list,
and viewing
yes,
list.
yes.
Yes. So Nebuta is at Hirosaki, it starts with fireworks at sundown. And when I say fireworks, they fire a few rockets in the air as the signal to start. And then you get the drumming starting up. And the drums are just enormous. People sit on top of them,
Wow.
straight along on like trolleys. And so they're all mobile. So the festival weaves its way round the sort of center of the town. And Hirosaki is a castle town. So it has the backdrop of a moat and a castle, although you can't really see that when you're sitting down watching the floats. But if you walk around beforehand, you can get that vibe of both history and excitement.
It's just such a huge thing,
The
and that's the museum as well, the Warase Museum that houses some of the floats that we can visit beforehand, so people get an idea of exactly what it's going to be like. Um, our,
Yes,
to,
yes, that's a great thing to do because it it's hard to describe the scale.
mm,
Um, there are hundreds of these floats. They're up to about 9 meters high, and the reason they've got that height limit is to manage to push them underneath the traffic lights. As they push them around the streets, they have to clear and the traffic lights. So it's that's the height restriction, but they're quite they're very impressive. They're made of paper on a frame. They're illuminated. They often have people on board playing flutes and drums. The Nebuta Festival is a word that comes from wake up sleepyhead. That's the kind of vibe. It's meant to be to ward off summer drowsiness for the farm workers when they're having to work in the heat.
Okay.
So it's moved on a long way since that origin, I think. And there are two different chants. The one in Aomori is Rarase. I think it's Rarase.
Yes.
And
That's
in
it.
Hirosaki, it's they have a different chant, and it's ya do, or ya do, I think it is. So everybody shouts that all night. It's we will be shouting that. I will probably choose not to participate this time, unless of course people are too shy to participate and need me there. But I would like to watch the floats go past, because when you're walking along, you don't really see that procession as
Yes.
much as you're in it. So you don't see that transition, and it's really wonderful to see the transition. It's quite nice to do both, actually.
Mm. So we do have like bleacher style seating that you can sit in, that we have pre-booked, so you can choose to just watch the parade go by, or you can partake in the actual parade, as you said, and dance down the street wearing a special style coat, a haori, and little thing in your head. I believe they're called haneto, the dancers. And you can go at the Warase Museum, you
Yes.
can go in advance and practice your dance and know what you're doing as you're going down the street, and indeed practice your shouting in your chant if you wish to participate. So we've had a few people do that over the last couple of years, and I think they found that fun for
Yeah.
those who wanted to. So it's
It
sort of
is good fun. The whole thing is great fun. It's a privilege to be allowed to be part of it when it's such a strong community event.
yeah. So these things are so often closed off and controlled so much more that it's great to have that experience at the end of our tour. It's sort of it is a real highlight, I feel, um, while we're there.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And it's nice to have it at the end,
Mm,
because it will be a wonderful way to finish off our beautiful tour.
yeah. So, I mean, just recapping, we're starting the tour in Sapporo, the capital of the main area of Hokkaido. We go through some of the warehouse areas and then across to the gardens areas where there are just these fields of flowers in Shinfuruno that we talked about, into Obihiro, for more garden and wildlife experience, wilderness garden experiences. We come down then into where the Ainu are in the Upapoi Museum, and here's where the hotel we have, you can experience onsen in the hotel as well there. As we said, it's a very famous region for onsen, hot springs, and then down for a couple of days in Hakodate, the other major town in Hokkaido, before we take that ferry across the Tsugaru Strait. It's about a 4-hour journey with special viewing seats booked for that before we land in Aomori and explore the region. With Hirosaki, it's quite a different tour. It's quite an unusual sort of tour with many different aspects to it. I'm sure you're looking forward to it, Relle, and and can bring all of these great sort of diverse cultural elements of the region to life for our guests. They'll be looking forward to that.
Yes, Mark, absolutely. It's Hokkaido's a beautiful destination, and I think paired with Aomori, it works really well because we will experience sweeping landscapes, beautiful art, wonderful gardens, culture, and the festival. So I think it's going to be really exciting. And all the people that came with me on the Botanic Gardens trip in 2024 absolutely loved it. And on we had a free day at the Furano Prince Hotel in the middle of Hokkaido, and one very lucky couple were on the cable car going up the mountain that leaves right from the Furano Prince Hotel up because it's a ski field hotel.
Yes.
They saw a bear down below the cable car. So that was a real highlight for some of my guests on that trip. Hopefully, we won't be coming across any though.
No, I don't think we want to necessarily have that experience.
No, well, I think it probably indicates don't go wandering in the forest on your day
Yeah,
off.
exactly. There's been a bit of publicity about bears in Japan lately too, so I do advise people to exercise caution with that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But it certainly is a great tour. We're very grateful to have you leading it for us, and that you're so looking forward to it, and that everyone can benefit from your deep knowledge, and we'll I think end up for today with our chat. And I'd just like to thank you very much, Relle, for joining us through all the technical difficulties. Even though I apologise to people
Oh,
if
yes,
there's been
once again.
some fade
Mark,
outs, etc.
yes, and if there are any, yes, if there are any questions that our participants today have for me, perhaps they could send them to you and then pass them on to
Certainly,
me, and
if
I will attempt to.
there is a
Um,
chat function here now, but if we close up and people don't have the option to use that, then they're more than welcome to send any questions through to our info@limelight-arts-travel.com.au. That is a mouthful.
yes, I'm very happy to stay on if you can communicate those questions because I won't be able to see them, unfortunately, because my screen is just black.
Sure. I don't have anything here at the moment in the chat function, but if anybody did have anything they wanted to ask, then we'll just give people a little minute to do that. No. No, I think that's all for today, Relle. And once again, thank you very much.